Imagine the night is quiet to quiet, the kind of quiet that settles deep in your bones. A cold wind slips through iron bars. A dim oil lamp flickers behind a stained glass window. And behind those stone walls. Lies a place history would rather forget. You've just stepped into a Victorian asylum. Not the ones in ghost stories. Not the ones in horror films. This is the real thing. A building with high walls, long corridors, and locked doors. Not to keep danger out, but to keep the insane in. But tonight, you're not just a visitor. You're here to listen. To feel. To walk slowly through time. Because what if madness isn't madness at all? What if the true horror wasn't the patients, but the treatment? Body minus 1,500 words. Excerpt continues. The year is 1862. London streets are thick with cold, dust, and fog. Carriages clatter down cobbled roads. But hidden just beyond the bustle, in the gray outskirts of the city, sits an enormous building. Ast. Eliza's lunatic asylum. Its name alone carries weight. Ast. Eliza, a name chosen not for comfort, but for control. And inside this place, time works differently. Everything is slower. Colder. Heavier. You walk down the main corridor. The walls are damp to the touch. Paint peels like old skin. The floor creaks with every step. And the air, it smells of bleach and despair. Nurses in long, starched uniforms pass by without meeting your gaze. They carry trays, glass bottles filled with powders, tonics, and syringes. A bell rings in the distance, 3 sharp chimes. It's time for silence. In room 14, a woman named Mary stares at the wall. She's been here for 8 years. Her crime, grief. After losing a child, she refused to stop crying. The doctors said it was hysteria. She was locked away. Next door, a man named Elias hums to himself. He was a professor once, brilliant, by all accounts, but he spoke to people no one else could. See, schizophrenia, perhaps, or maybe, as some whispered, he was simply too sensitive for the world. These are the forgotten, the discarded, labeled as broken, but are they? The treatments in this place are not what you'd call humane. Cold water, immersion, isolation cells, trepanation drilling into the skull to let the madness out. Doctors in stiff coats believe they are doing God's work, but the patients, they only feel the cold. There is no laughter here. No music, only the ticking of the great-grandfather clock in the hall, and the occasional sob that escapes a locked room. But not everything is pain. Some moments are still. Soft. In the garden, under supervision, patients are allowed to walk. The roses are overgrown. The fountain hasn't worked in years, but here, Mary closes her eyes and feels sunlight. Elias sketches the birds he sees. Tiny rebellions. In a world built to silence them, you begin to understand. This place isn't just about madness. It's about control. Silencing grief, punishing rebellion, forcing the odd to become ordinary. And maybe. That single quotes as the most frightening part, because anyone in the wrong era, with the wrong thoughts. Could single quotes have ended up behind these walls. The door creaks open, not just any door, but one that leads to the medical wing. Dim gaslights flicker against shelves of glass bottles. There is a chill here, not from the air, but from what has happened within these walls. You're standing in the office of the asylum's chief physician. Dr. Thaddeus Wren, a man who believed he was saving lives, even as he shattered minds. His office smells of old paper, chalk dust, and camphor oil. Books are stacked like towers, one atop another, most never read again. His handwriting fills dozens of leather-bound ledgers. One line repeated, again and again. Patient shows no signs of improvement. But what did improvement mean to a Victorian doctor? Silence, obedience, emptiness. Main narrative minus 1,500 words. Segment continues. Dr. Wren was not a monster. At least, not in his own eyes. He was a man of his time, a scholar of phrenology, the now discredited belief that skull shape determines personality. He carried calipers in his coat pocket, measured heads, made notes, declared madness with mathematical precision. To him, emotions were a disease. Too much joy. Mania. Too much sorrow. melancholy. To many questions. Possibly delusion. He pioneered treatments that were praised in journals and feared in the halls. The spinning chair designed to reset the mind. The tranquilizer harness, a leather device that bound patients in stillness for hours. And the ever-controversial electrotherapy. In the far corner of the treatment room sits the machine. Its wires are coiled like serpents. Electrodes sit in a tray beside damp cloths. A crank manual, of course, waits to be turned. They called it correction through current. Patients called it something else. They called it the storm. Mary endured it. Her crying had become whispers. Her laughter gone. After 3 sessions, she stopped looking people in the eye. Dr. Wren noted subdued behavior. He wrote it as progress. But was it? In the doctor's private journal, not meant for any eyes, but his own, another tone emerges. Late night entries, written with an unsteady hand, greater than I saw the girl staring at me again. Not in rage, not in fear. Just disappointment. I don't understand it. Why would she look at me that way? I am helping. He doubted himself, but only in the dark. By morning, he would button his coat, tighten his gloves, and become the healer once more, a man chosen by science to tame the storm of human emotion. Slow interlude. Sleepy reflection section as you sit in his office now. The ledger's opened before you. The candlelight sways. There are hundreds of names, patients long buried, lives summarized in 5 sentences or less. Mail to 8. Spoke to walls. Refused food. Electric response ineffective. Transferred to lower ward. That's all, a whole life in a paragraph. And yet, in the margins, there are smudges, ink tears, small doodles, random words underlined without reason. Hope, mother, sky. It makes you wonder, did the patients write here too? Did their hands shaking, desperate scribble something into history before they were silenced? You close the book gently. The candle flickers once, then fades. Closing. Relaxing fade-out tone somewhere in the hallway. Footsteps echo. Rubber solace on stone. The nurse makes her final rounds. Keys jingle softly like wind chimes in a storm. Outside. The sky is still the same. Clouded. Distant. The garden remains quiet, save for one bird still awake, singing into the night. And in this strange place between science and suffering, belief and brutality, the line between doctor and patient grows thin. As your breath slows, and your eyes begin to close, let yourself drift, not into the madness they feared, but into the calm that comes after it. Tomorrow, we explore the basement, but for now, rest. Some places are quiet not because they are peaceful, but because even time is afraid to move there. You descend the narrow stairwell, stone steps, uneven with age. A single lantern hangs on a rusted hook. Its flame trembles, as if it, too, fears what lies below. You're entering the lower wards, the basement. The forgotten level, the part of the asylum that patients whisper about in their sleep. Welcome to the place where silence screams. Main narrative 1500. Word segment continues. The air grows colder with each step. Dampness clings to the walls like skin to bone. Here, the rules are different. No regular schedules. No garden walks. No candlelit reading hours. This is where the long-term patients live, those deemed untreadable, dangerous, or simply inconvenient. You reach the bottom. A heavy door stands before you. No label, just the number B-7. Inside, the light barely touches the floor. The cells, yes, they're no longer called rooms, are made of stone and iron. No windows. No beds. Just straw mats, a wooden bowl, and the echo of your own breath. Patient 47 resides here. Her real name was never recorded. The staff call her Violet because she once spoke of flowers blooming in winter. That was 23 years ago. She doesn't speak now. She sits in the corner, watching shadows on the wall. No one knows her age. No family visits. No one even remembers what diagnosis brought her here. But her eyes, they hold the weight of something deeper than madness. Something ancient. Something like truth. Observational interlude. Slower, quieter rhythm. The other cells tell their own stories. In B3, a boy no older than 14 counts the bricks in the wall, over and over, his fingers raw from tracing the mortar lines. He believes each brick holds a memory, and he's determined to find the one that belongs to him. In B5, a former violinist hums the same unfinished melody, night after night. It's the only part of himself he remembers. The rest was washed away during 6 months in isolation. This level of the asylum was built not for healing but for hiding. From the public. From the press. Even from history. Records here are sparse. Patients vanish from ledgers. Treatments aren't logged. The doctors stop writing altogether because this part of the asylum wasn't designed to cure. It was designed to erase. Narrative shift. Follow the staff member. You hear footsteps behind you. It's not a doctor this time. It's a man with no title. No coat. Just a large ring of keys and hands roughened by years of silence. His name is Callum. He's worked here longer than anyone else. No one knows where he sleeps. No one asks. Callum nods to you without speaking and unlocks a side door. This one's special, he says softly. You enter a circular room with no cells, just a single chair, straps on the arms, and mark burns on the floor beneath. It was used for resets, sessions where they believed complete sensory deprivation could unmake a mind, then rebuild it again. No one ever came back quite the same. Callum stares at the chair, then whispers, sometimes. They didn't come back at all. You ask why. This place is still kept open. Why the basement hasn't been closed or cleaned. Callum shrugs. History has a way of keeping its worst stories in the dark. It's easier that way. Calm reflection. Prepare for fade out. You walk back toward the stairwell. Violet doesn't move. The violinist hums. The boy in B3 finishes his count, then starts again. And you realize the basement isn't haunted by ghosts. It's haunted by memories no one wants to claim. Back above ground, the world moves on. The asylum's upper floors begin to stir. Nurses prepare the morning tea. Doctors prepare their notes. But down here, time is still asleep. So breathe deeply now. Let the shadows settle. Let the stories close like old books on forgotten shelves. Tonight, the past sleeps, and you should too. Chapter close. Sleep induction tone. Let the weight of this place drift from your shoulders. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the floor beneath you soften. The air grow warmer. The memories fade into mist. You're safe now. Outside the cell. Outside the story. And tomorrow, we'll visit the asylum's archives, where even paper remembers pain. But for now, just sleep. Some buildings breathe, not through lungs, but through the pages they keep. You step into the archive room. Wooden doors grown open. Dust dances in the light from a single window, a narrow beam cutting across the dark. This is where the asylum remembers. Not through voices, but through paper. Welcome to the archives, where silence is ink, and every file has a heartbeat. Main narrative minus 1,500 words. Segment continues. The room is larger than you expected. Endless shelves, leather-bound registers. Handwritten notes, drawers filled with files that were never meant to be read again. Some folders are labeled clearly: melancholia, moral deficiency, dementia precox. Others are marked only by numbers, as if names were too dangerous to preserve. You run your hand across the spine of one ledger. It cracks open with a sound like footsteps on gravel. The first page is a patient intake form. Name: Margaret. Age: 19. Diagnosis: inappropriate imagination. The reason for admittance: she told stories no one wanted to hear. She wrote poems on walls, laughed at funerals, refused to marry the man her father chose. In Victorian England, these were not quirks, they were symptoms. Introspective passage: gentle, slow. You flip through pages and see the pattern. A woman grieves too long. Hysteria: a man isolates himself after war. Lunacy: a child talks to imaginary friends. possible possession. Every deviation from the norm, every wound the world didn't understand, was labeled and locked away. But between these clinical words, you begin to see something else. There are annotations in softer handwriting. As if a nurse, perhaps one with a quiet soul, left whispers in the margins. Patient dreams of the sea, hums lullabies at night, asked me if the stars still shine. These are the pieces that never made it into medical journals. The humanity behind the condition. The soul behind the illness. You begin to wonder how many brilliant minds were buried beneath these diagnoses. How many artists, thinkers, lovers were erased by a label. Narrative shift. Find the sealed drawer in the far corner of the archive. You find a locked drawer. The key. It's already in the lock. Almost like it was waiting. Inside are the red files. The ones no one talks about. Mark difficult cases in faded script. These are the files of those who resisted, who fought back, who refused treatments, who demanded to be heard. Their stories are different. Not just because of what happened to them, but because they wrote back. Letters, drawings, rambling manifestos that blur the line between madness and genius. One file contains a folded paper bird, another a half-finished lullaby. A man named Everett wrote a daily journal on his own skin with a sharpened bone and ash. The notes were transcribed by a sympathetic orderly. They tell the story of a man who remembered everything, even when the world begged him to forget. Slow reflection, soft wind and stillness. You sit on the cold wooden floor, a file open in your lap. Outside, the wind picks up. The branches tap the window like a metronom. You think about how many lives passed through this place. How many were misunderstood? Not because they were broken, but because the world had no space for them. And slowly, it dawns on you. The asylum was never just a building. It was a mirror, reflecting society's fears back at itself. It labeled anything strange as sickness, anything uncontainable as threat. But these records, they speak the truth beneath the fear. The patients weren't lost. They were abandoned, pushed into corners, then forgotten. Chapter close. Slow descent into sleep. You close the last file. The dust settles. The archives grow quiet again. But the stories, they linger. In the wooden beams, in the ink-stained pages, in your mind. As you prepare to leave the room, you glance back once more. There's a calm here now, not peace, but acknowledgement. And sometimes, that's enough. So breathe in, feel the weight of their stories rest beside you. No longer hidden. No longer alone. Let your thoughts drift, like paper across a desk. We'll visit the day room next, where smiles were measured and silence was taught. But for now, let sleep carry you. Gently. Quietly. As history whispers its final lines. Morning light filters through tall, barred windows. It lands gently on checkerboard floors, on worn chairs and threadbare cushions, on people sitting very still. Welcome to the day room, a place that pretended to be warm, a place that taught people how to smile, but only in the right way. This was the asylum's heart, beating not with joy, but with routine. Main narrative minus 1,500 words. Segment continues. At first glance, the day room might seem pleasant. There are bookshelves, though many books are missing covers. There's a piano in the corner, its keys yellowed and chipped. There's sunlight, though it never quite reaches the corners of the room. Patients sit in silence. Some knit, some read, some stare at the wall, their hands folded in their laps like obedient children. This is where orderly behavior is observed, where notes are taken. Where personalities are shaped like clay. A nurse walks by. She smiles, tightly, carefully. She watches every movement. She marks everything in her notebook. Patient avoided eye contact. Patient asked to leave early. Patient laughed at inappropriate time, because in the day room, laughter had rules. Silence had rules. Even the way you sat in a chair had rules. Detailed patient vignettes. Gentle, observational tone. In the middle of the room sits Samuel, once a soldier. He arranges dominoes into perfect lines. then knocks them over, then begins again. He doesn't speak, but every piece he places says something. Something about control, about a world he can finally predict. Beside the piano, Miriam hums softly. She was once a music teacher. She plays the same tune every day. Just the black keys. It's a melody that doesn't belong to any song. It simply exists, like her. Across the room, young Thomas carves letters into the armrest of his chair, one by one. A name, maybe his, maybe someone else's. The nurses stop him, but he starts again the next day. These people are not dangerous. They are floating between who they were and who they were told to be. Systemic reflection, quiet critique of the culture in Victorian times. The day room was considered progress. An improvement, a way to civilize the mentally ill. But what it truly did was teach people to disappear. To smile without feeling. To sit without questioning. To become invisible, just enough to survive. Patients quickly learned that compliance was rewarded. Silence meant tea. Smiling meant shorter treatments. No questions meant longer guard and time. It was behavioral training, not healing. Adaptation, not recovery. The goal wasn't to understand the patient. It was to make them easier to forget. Slow moment, a rare act of rebellion. One afternoon, someone moves the chairs just a few inches out of their perfect grid. No one speaks, but every patient notices. It's a ripple. For a moment, the room breathes. Samuel stops arranging his dominoes. Miriam's melody changes. Key. Thomas carves a question mark into the wood. The nurse returns. She frowns, moves the chairs back, writes it down. Unexplained disruption, possible agitation. And just like that, the day room resets. The rebellion disappears. Routine returns. But you felt it. That flicker of something real. It wasn't madness. It was memory. Resistance, hidden in posture and movement. Calm reflection. End of chapter. Sleep transition. As the afternoon fades, the sun lowers behind the window. The light stretches long and gold across the floor. One by one, the patients are guided out, back to their rooms, back to their roles. The day room grows still, the piano silent, the books untouched. And in that stillness, a truth remains. This wasn't a place of chaos. It was a place of quiet control, of smiles worn like masks, of obedience mistaken for healing. But now, as you rest your head, as your breath softens, and your mind drifts, let go of the chair, let go of the rules, let go of the watching eyes, because you are not in the day room, you are outside the ledger, free to feel, to imagine, to sleep. Tomorrow, we enter the attic, where the asylum's secrets were hidden not in books, but in dust, and time, and silence. But for now, sleep well, the day is done. Not all stories are locked behind doors. Some drift upward, through stairwells and rafters. To the place no one thinks to look. Welcome to the attic. The forgotten room above the asylum. Where old furniture leans against the walls, where broken clocks wait in silence, where memories settle like dust on unopened boxes. This is where time comes to rest, and where we end our journey. Main narrative minus 1,500 words. Segment continues. The attic stairs are narrow. They creak under your weight, each step softer than the one before. There's no gaslight here, only daylight, filtered through cracked wood panels. It smells of paper, mothballs, and rain that never fully dried. You open the door with both hands. It groans open, revealing a room not used in decades. Old wheelchairs sit in a corner. Straight jackets hang from rusted hooks, not like monsters, but like ghosts too tired to haunt. And everywhere, boxes. Unmarked. Unclaimed. Unopened. You kneel beside one. The lid comes off with a sigh. Inside letters. Photographs. Scraps of fabric. Drawings on yellowing pages. Hair ribbons. Buttons. Pressed flowers. These aren't records. They're remains, pieces, of people left behind, not by choice, but by silence. Vignette interlude. Emotional stillness. One letter reads, "To whomever finds this, please tell them I was kind." I was scared. I was not lost. I was waiting. Tell them I remembered everything. No signature. No date. Only a fingerprint at the bottom, smudged, but real. Another box holds a photograph. A group of patients standing in a garden. None of them smiling. All of them facing the same direction, as if waiting for someone to return. Theirs. No caption. No names. Just faces. Soft. Faded. Human. You feel a breeze from the cracked roof above. The dust lifts slightly. The room exhales. Spoken memory. The voice of the forgotten. For a moment, you imagine them speaking. Not loudly. Not angrily. Just. Honestly, we were here. We felt things. We mattered. Not because they were cured. Not because they were famous, but because they existed. And isn't that enough? Reflection. Linking the chapters together gently. Think back. To the garden, where Mary closed her eyes in sunlight. To Elias drawing birds in the margins of his mind. To Violet watching shadows on the basement wall. To the whispering archives. The silent day room. All of it led here. To this attic. To these final truths. This asylum was a house of containment, but it was also a house of memory. And memory is powerful. It endures in dust. In ink. In dreams. In you. Final fade. Closing the journey peacefully, you close the box. Gently. You stand slowly. You take one last look at the attic. And then you leave it as it was. Quiet. Still. Honest. The door shuts behind you without a sound. Outside, the sky is beginning to shift. Evening light spreads across the grounds like silk. The crows are silent now. Even the wind waits. You walk the hallways once more. Past the rooms, past the locked doors. Past the stories that now feel less frightening, because now, you know, these people weren't mad. They were misunderstood, and now, they are remembered, and you've walked their halls, felt their shadows, heard their silence, carried their voices. Now it's time to sleep, not out of fear, but out of peace. Soft sleep induction. Cinematic close. Let your body grow heavy. Let your breath fall into rhythm. Let the world quiet. No more echoes. No more keys. No more notes in margins. Just silence and sleep. You are safe. You are outside. You are free. Good night.